As Francis Marion University celebrates its 40th anniversary, it is appropriate to reflect on its earliest days, including the people and circumstances that led to the establishment of an institution that changed a region. It is equally appropriate to recall the accomplishments through the years and contemplate what the future may hold. Francis Marion University's remarkable history began well over 40 years ago when a group of community leaders from Florence realized the overwhelming need for an institution of higher learning in the PD region of South Carolina and took action to make their vision a reality. With Dr. Heyward Stokes, James Rogers, and others leading the effort, a proposal was made in 1956 to the president of the University of South Carolina to open a branch in Florence. The first freshman class of USC Florence met in the basement of the Florence County Library in September 1957. From this humble beginning, the seeds were planted for what has become Francis Marion University. Quickly outgrowing the space at the library, a new effort was started to establish a permanent campus for the USC Florence branch, and a fundraising program was launched led by Clifford Cormell. In January 1960, the Wallace family generously donated 100 acres of land and a beautiful antebellum-style house for the campus, 7 miles east of Florence, where Francis Marion is located today. Construction began on the first building, named for J. Heyward Stokes, and in 1961 the permanent campus for USC Florence was established. By 1966, the enrollment had reached 350 students, and it became apparent that a 2-year branch was not adequate to meet the growing needs for higher education. A movement began to establish a 4-year institution that would be independent of the University of South Carolina. Community leaders and legislators from the PD continued their efforts, and in June 1969, Governor Robert E. McNair signed a bill creating the institution. In October of 1969, Dr. Walter Douglas Smith was chosen as the school's first president.
After a few visits down here, visiting with James Rogers, Heyward Stokes, Cliff Cormell, John Kassab, and others who constituted the local advisory board for the university's regional campus, the job was offered to me and I accepted.
He chose his secretary, Dolores Miller, to be the first employee, and she traveled to Florence to assist in the initial development of the institution. Only 2 buildings were on site, the Stokes Building and Wallace Hall, the former home of the Wallace family.
Behind Stokes Hall there was a tennis court, one small tennis court, worn surface. That was constituted the athletic program at the time. Where the library is currently located, there was a large grove of pine trees. And then part of the mall was in a big field of cotton.
One needed quite an imagination to visualize a modern, thriving campus. Nonetheless, the overwhelming task of building a new college had begun.
We had to build a campus, build buildings, hours and hours of negotiations with legislators and educators and architects. We had to plan faculty, and then we had a whole big curriculum to devise. And then, how would you tell students about this new campus? So we had all those things in mind.
I was a dream seller, trying to convince prospective faculty, people we really needed, wanted. Those empty fields, I could see, I believed. And I guess taking them around town, I would get excited all over again about showing them schools, showing them Florence, the beautiful sections of Florence.
On the extremely hot day of July 1st, 1970, a ceremony transferring the assets from USC to Francis Marion College was held, creating a new state college for the first time in the 20th century. The initial student body, expected to be around 450, consisted of 907 students. By the fall of 1974, the student body exceeded 2,000. Committed to getting it right, Dr. Smith's team developed a master plan which guided campus development for the next 2 decades, resulting in the beautiful campus and landscaping enjoyed today. Dr. Smith recalls when he and James Rogers were discussing plans for the library built in 1971.
He looked at the location of that library and he looked way down the long strip of land and he could see Stokes Hall down there. And he said something to the effect, "My, Doug, that's a long ways from the Stokes Hall." And it was indeed, and I said, "Mr. Rogers, what we will do is we'll fill all that in with academic facilities."
Construction of the library was quickly followed by the Robert E. McNair Science Building in 1972. By the end of 1974, the Walter Douglas Smith College Center opened along with Founders Hall, and in 1977, the John K. Cawthon Media Center was completed. Initially, Francis Marion offered 2 degrees, Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science, with 10 majors. The dedication and quality of the initial faculty became evident when the university received full accreditation by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools in 1972. During the 70s, graduate programs in education and psychology began, and by the end of the decade, there were 13 academic departments offering 16 majors. It was during these early years that the Francis Marion faculty earned a reputation for excellence in teaching, one that continues to this day. While the early emphasis at Francis Marion was on academics, the college began to build its athletic teams and facilities as well. Early contests were played at area high schools, but the opening of the Smith College Center, the Clifford S. Cormell baseball field, and the John Cassaub tennis courts allowed the Patriots to host home games and matches for the first time. Starting a brand new college also provided an opportunity to lay the foundation for a campus culture that would meet the needs of the growing student body. During the initial year of operation, students selected the school colors of red, white, and blue and identified the Patriot as the mascot. The Student Government Association was formed. The Campus Crier newspaper and the yearbook vignettes began. The Student Entertainment Committee formed to provide social and cultural opportunities. The first Greek letter fraternities and sororities were chartered. The opening of the Smith Center in 1974 provided many new opportunities for enhanced student life by providing on-campus dining, fitness and recreational facilities, a swimming pool, and other amenities. The gym allowed on-campus athletic events and provided an arena for concerts.
I can remember Alabama, I can remember Earth, Wind and Fire, I can remember Bob Hope being in there, I can remember Dolly Parton being in there, I can remember Oprah Winfrey being in there, just to name a few of the big name people.
Early community supporters realized that it would be a few years before the young college had an established alumni base and fundraising program.
When I arrived, Dr. Stokes and I were chatting one day and he said, "We need an organization here in the community to help get this college started." And very quickly, Friends of the Francis Marion became a title. The people in this community came through with flying colors.
The college's second decade was marked by continued growth in all areas. A major shift in the campus culture occurred when the Village Apartments were opened in 1980, housing 320 students, thus ending Francis Marion's status as a commuter campus. With the increase in academic opportunities and campus activities, the student body topped 3,000 for the first time in 1981. President Smith retired in 1983 and Dr. Thomas C. Stanton was selected as his successor. Another milestone occurred in 1988 when the legislature established an autonomous board of trustees for Francis Marion. During the 80s, new undergraduate programs were added, a graduate program in business was developed, and the University Honors Program was launched. The faculty continued to gain regional and national prominence through research and service, and the library collections experienced massive expansion. The campus continued its growth with the opening of the Peter D. Hyman Fine Arts Center in 1981. In 1983, the Wallace House was renovated to serve as the residence for the university president. In addition to the Village Apartments, student housing was expanded to include 6 residence halls and the Edward S. Irvin Dining Hall. In 1988, the Thomas C. Stanton Academic Computer Center was completed and the Reams Wing was added to the library. In the 1980s, the athletic program continued to grow and gain national recognition. Women's basketball experienced incredible success during this decade, winning 2 national championships in 1982 and 1986. During its third decade, Francis Marion experienced changes in leadership as well as its name. In 1992, the General Assembly granted university status to the college, and the name was changed to Francis Marion University. Another milestone was reached when the student enrollment exceeded 4,000 for the first time in 1993. Upon Dr. Stanton's retirement in 1994, Dr. Lee Vickers was named the university's third president. Changes to the facilities continued during the 90s with a major addition to the Stokes Building in 1991. The Hugh K. Leatherman Science Facility, completed in 1994, provided modern laboratory, classroom, and office facilities for the growing science programs. A major step occurred in 1993 when the university joined NCAA Division II for intercollegiate competition, where many programs have achieved national prominence.